Hi, my name is Alexis Belton, and this is another episode of Send It, where we talk about all of golf's hottest topics with two very special guests. This week I have with me Alex Maselli and Gary Van Sickle. This week we're going to be talking about Bryson DeChambeau and what he's done with the golf game. Hitting the ball far off the tee and then wedge putt. Is this the new wave of golf? As a long driver, I think, this is something exciting for me to see, but is this where the golf game is going now?
Well, if I must, look, everybody's talking about Bryson's length, which is certainly prodigious compared to what it used to be even 6 months ago. But, you still have to get the ball in the hole. You still have to do all the other things that are required. And I can tell you that watching Bryson on Saturday at the U.S. Open, in the first hole, he was, I'd say, 60 yards past Patrick Reed off the tee in the fairway, and made a bogey. So, he only had a wedge in. So we can talk all we want about his length and how big that is. And at times it becomes an advantage, there's no question. But if you don't have the rest of the package, it doesn't really matter. I think people overlook his abilities because they just talk about the length thing.
I think that they overlook the 8 milkshakes. I think that's what gets you to win a U.S. Open. But, it's not here or there.
If milkshakes could win a U.S. Open, I'd already have 5 titles, all right? I mean, that's pretty obvious. I hate to say I agree with Alex because that rarely happens, but he's right. Golf is about getting the ball in the hole. And yet, in the history of golf, length kills. Who have been the greatest players in the game? Most of them has been the longest hitters in the game. So what I think is funny is we see it with this transformation of Bryson DeChambeau, who changed his body and went in the gym and completely changed the way he looks and the way he plays. He hits at 375 yards on that par 5 on Sunday in the 9th hole. Matthew Wolff, who has done none of these things, who's probably 175 pounds sopping wet, hit at 381 yards. So while DeChambeau has changed his game by how he plays it, he isn't changing the game because the game's already changed. Matthew Wolff isn't the only one out there. There's Cameron Champ. There's 30 other guys on the Korn Ferry Tour we've never heard of. We thought it was scary when the 350-yard drive became abnormal. We just watched the U.S. Open when guys hit at 380 repeatedly. So it's not DeChambeau, it's everybody. The closer you get to the hole, wherever you are, is better than the guy 20 yards behind you.
Yeah, I'd say one thing that people often overlook is like hitting it far is great, but where you hit it far, right? So your misses are very important. And I think that's something that's being overlooked as we talk about distance and being a little bit more smarter off the tee as you're bombing it down the fairway or in the rough.
Well, you know what else, Alexis? That was the difference between Bryson and everybody else. Yeah, there were other people that were long, but he attacked the golf course and did the right things where others did not. So I think that when we play these older courses, TPC Harding Park is not an older course, but you play Winged Foot, you played Oakmont, you're going to play even Pinehurst, which is really another one where these are places where it's not just how far you hit it, but it's having the right angles in and being in the right position, being below the hole a lot of times because of the way the greens are sloped. These are all things that people just forget about just because some guy can hit the ball 350 yards.
Right. Course management is huge. I think one thing that's interesting as we watch the game kind of evolve into seeing these guys bomb the ball is looking at the LPGA and what is it going to take for them to gain the interest of more U.S. fans to kind of tap in.
One thing they could really use would be a major network affiliation. Why are the women not on ABC, NBC, CBS? That's a question for advertisers. It really goes to the fundamental support in the public, which advertisers clearly don't think is there. Otherwise, they would spend the money and these things would be on. I think a bigger presence on TV would be helpful on major networks. And we just talked about having a big hitter. People dig the long ball. I've been waiting for this female Tiger Woods to come along, somebody who hits at 310 yards all day long and has a great short game. Get people's attention, you need an LPGA player who's going to go out and win 10, 12, 15 times a year and hit it 50 yards past but just be amazing. And that can still happen because the distance boom in men's golf, we haven't seen quite the same in women's golf.
Well, I mean, I think you just think of Nancy Lopez, Annika Sorenstam. They were players, one American, one not, but they were players that were significant, and they transcended what was happening on the tour, and other people wanted to watch them and see them. And that's what Gary says is the Tiger Woods effect. You know, the most successful women's sport, I think, in the United States is basketball. Basketball, maybe soccer, but I think really basketball. And the reason why basketball is so successful is because it's owned by all the NBA, all the WNBA teams are owned by the NBA teams. And because of that, they treat them similarly. Now, they're not the same, obviously. It's not the same money, but they get a lot of good TV. They bundle the package together. WNBA is playing in the same bubble like the NBA is playing. You know, the LPGA is going to have to find a way to get in a relationship with the PGA Tour. I mean, there's just no way around it. They have to do that. Now, they already doing a marketing deal with them where they've actually sold the rights. The TV rights were sold to the Golf Channel by the PGA Tour. They packaged the whole deal up, but that's all they've done. The one time the USGA did the US Open, Women's Open back-to-back in the same venue worked out pretty well. And of course, we had a great winner in Michelle Wie in regards to the fact that she, had name recognition. But I mean, I think those type of things can really work. But, if you're the PGA Tour, your answer to this question, Alexis, is why? Why would we spend the time, energy, or any impetus to do this? Because we're successful as it is. Do we need to do this? And until they feel they need to do it, until they feel like, more the population of this country, half the population of this country is important, which is women, more than half, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I definitely think the importance of maybe, as more PGA players and employees start having daughters, see the importance of that. But definitely on the LPGA side, really growing characters. Everybody doesn't have to be nice on tour. You can have that effect of Bryson versus Brooks and different storylines that you have amongst the girls. I think that would really, really help the LPGA, as well as seeing on Symetra, there's a lot of girls that bomb it and that are playing well and that have the incredible short game to match. And I think that's the new wave coming up for women's golf and the next generation. So it'll be exciting to see women take that same effect as the men have been doing, playing it long. There's a lot of things that need to happen in order to grow that side of the game, but hopefully in the next couple of years, things will change. And I don't know, golf's already gotten big because of COVID. Everyone's playing now. I hope that trend increases. So thank you guys so much for coming on this week. I appreciate it. And make sure you tune in next week for another episode of Send It.